Hi guys, I'm here today to do my April book haul, so without further ado, let's jump straight into the books. I'm going to start with the 4 books I picked up on the BookTube meetup in London. So on the very last day of March, a bunch of booktubers met up in London. I was one of them and we went book shopping and it was so lovely. There was old friends of mine that I've known for years and I got to meet some wonderful people that I'd never met before or even seen their channels before. And talk to them and discover new books and subscribe to their channels. So I really enjoyed myself and I picked up 4 books like I mentioned. It was the weekend after my birthday, so I'd sort of planned in my head that I was going to treat myself, although 4 is maybe more than I planned on buying, but no guilt. I'm happy with my purchases. The first 2 books I bought were from Gaze the Word, and the first one is one that I went out with the intention of picking up, hoping they would have it in Gaze the Word, and that is The Gilda Stories by Joe Gomez. This is a book which I did start on Scribd, where they have the ebook, but I can't read ebooks on my phone or computer, like with a backlit screen and things. I find it really headachy. So I liked it enough to pick up a physical copy for myself, and they had one, like I said, in Gaze the Word. This is essentially historical lesbian, vampire, slavery era fantasy, I guess. So the book itself was first published in 1991, and from what I read in like the first 10% on Scribd, we follow this girl who's just called Girl initially, as she comes into the household of Gilda, who at this time during, like I said, slavery era America, runs a brothel. And Gilda is a vampire. So presumably the girl is eventually going to also become a vampire, and I'm intrigued to see how this unfolds. I really like the writing of what I'd read so far, so I'm really excited for this. I then also picked up Moonstruck Volume 2 by Grace Ellis and Shae Beagle. I have of course read the first volume of this, or I wouldn't have picked up the second one, and I have to say it's currently one of my favourite comic book series. It is so family friendly, to be honest. You could read this at any age. It's incredibly cute, but it ticks all the boxes. The art is lovely, lots of like cute colours and illustrations. Here's some more illustrations. And it's set in our world, very much just like ordinary modern day, except that there's magical creatures living alongside humans. So our protagonist is a werewolf and she's just started dating a new girl. So they're in the beginnings of their relationship in volume 1, and her friends who work in a coffee shop get drawn into some mystery that they have to solve, and it's so much fun. It's so diverse, so much representation, and like I said, just really cute, fun characters. I love their emotions and I think they're very relatable, and yeah, I really enjoyed the first volume. And then I picked up 2 more books in foils, and they're both sort of literary horror, I think you could call them. So the first one is a book that I had already had my eye on, and that is Sealed by Naomi Booth, and this is such a gorgeous cover. The initial reason I picked this up in a bookshop a while ago was because of the gorgeous cover. I read the back and thought, that sounds intriguing. Tried to reserve it from my library, but then it went missing, or somebody never returned it, so they don't have a copy anymore, and I thought, well, I'll treat myself in that case. And it is about a woman who is pregnant for the first time, and her husband moved to a remote cottage in the mountains, and I think like dark, creepy things start to happen. Like I said, sort of like literary horror. And then I actually ended up picking up another book that I think falls into that category, also ticking the sort of historical box, and that is Raw Blood by Katrina Ward. So this one follows a family who is cursed over the generations, or at least we're with the current generation and they're looking back on how the curse has affected their ancestors over the years. So that's why I think it goes through different generations. But I mainly picked this one up because Victoria from Eves Alexander said it was incredible. She really sold it to me. And I thought, hey, do you know what, I'm going to see if they had it, and they did, and I'm really excited to read it. I'm really in the mood for something a little bit creepy and mysterious at the moment. And then, although I'd already picked this one up, she said she'd also read this and said it was good, so I have like a solid review there that both of these are going to be excellent reads, and I do very much trust her. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to both of these. I then bought myself one more book recently, and I had to order this one online because I couldn't find it in Forbidden Planet as I'd hoped, and that is Den of Wolves by Juliette Marillier. This is the 3rd in the Blackthorn and Grimm series, and I recently read book 2 and needed to immediately buy book 3. I can't wait to wrap up this trilogy, although I'll be sad when it's over. I always like to speculate that hopefully one day Juliette Marillier will just add more books to all of her series, but for now I am going to make the most of the 3rd book. So this follows Blackthorn and Grimm who have escaped prison in the beginning of the first book, set in medieval Ireland, and they have relocated. Blackthorn as a wise woman and Grim as her helper to live in a village and provide the services that a wise woman would to that area. But they then get dragged into a mystery involving the prince of this region and his intended bride, and basically these books are like medieval high fantasy mysteries, and they're fabulous, and I can't wait to find out what the mystery will be in book 3. But like I've already mentioned, it was my birthday in March, so I did receive 2 books as gifts. The first one is a short story collection called Breach. This was a gift from a family friend, and all of these short stories explore the refugee experience. So on the back it says, Calais is a border town between France and Britain, between us and them. The 8 short stories in this collection explore the refugee crisis through fiction. So this sounds really intriguing. It's also from, I think, what must be an indie press I've not heard of before. It's Perrine, and it's gorgeously made. It's got a lovely French flap, and I love me a French flap. So this sounds really up my street. I was then also gifted by my friend Grace, who you might have heard before on my podcast, That's Ancient History, The Book of Dust, which is volume 1 of La Belle Sauvage in the Dark Materials series. Is it in the Dark Materials series? It's in the Dark Materials universe, which is a series by Philip Pullman. This is sort of a prequel, so the stories in this book, or the story in this book, precedes the events of his Dark Materials, which is good because I've never read the 3rd Dark Materials book, although that's something I would like to change before the TV series starts. So I might end up making this the year that I read all of the rest of the sort of published books in his Dark Materials. But Grace adores these books. She really sold this to me, and I said I'd be interested in reading it, and then she surprised me with it on my birthday. So once I do read this, we might even do a podcast episode on sort of the classical influences in his Dark Materials. So look out for that. But then I have a pile of physical books that were sent to me by publishers. So the first one is one that I was not expecting in the post. It came unsolicited, but I'm so pleased that it did. And that is a proof of perfectly preventable death. Sorry, the title is on the spine, by Deirdre Sullivan. It says on the front, Sisters, Sacrifice, Witchcraft, tick, tick, tick. Sounds excellent already. But I also know I love Deirdre Sullivan. I read her short story collection, Tangoid and Brine, which are sort of feminist fairy tale retellings, and I actually interviewed her last year, and she's just wonderful. You know, you just really like somebody, so it just makes you like their work all the more. And I've been really excited to read her first novel ever since reading the short story collection. But all I know about this is what the blurb tells me, and that is that 15-year-old twins Madeline and Caitlin moved to a new life in Ballyfran, a strange, isolated Irish town, a place where the earth is littered with small corpses and unspoken truths, a place where for the last 60 years teenage girls have gone missing in the surrounding mountains. I'm like, potential witchcraft, thriller, mystery, yes, all of this. And Ireland, I love books set in Ireland, so I'm really keen to read this one. Another book I was sent but was expecting to receive, and I'm almost finished in fact reading, is The Time Traveller Diaries by Caroline Lawrence. So this is actually a children's book, and Caroline Lawrence is quite the household name when it comes to children's books set in antiquity and exploring ancient history. So I was really excited to get a copy of this one in the post, and it is so much fun. Like I said, I'm almost finished it. It's just like such great fun, which is what you want from children's books, I think, as an adult if you're reading them. It's about a young boy living in London who travels back in time. He's sort of sent on a mission to find out more information about this deceased Roman girl that they have the bones of. So he is sent back to sort of 3rd century AD Rome, I think it is, via the Mithraeum, which is a site in London that you can go and visit for free. So it very much plays on Londinium or Roman Britain and all of the sort of history, and I love all the references to the different sites and the use of Latin and things in here. I think it's such fun, and I think it would be such a great introduction to ancient history and Roman history if you were a child, but even as an adult I'm enjoying it. Another book that I'm currently reading is The Girl Aquarium by Jane Campbell. I will finish this one very shortly because it's not very long, as you can see, and that's because it's a poetry collection. You don't expect poetry collections to be that long, do you? But this is Jen's first full-length poetry collection. I have previously read her poetry pamphlet, which was published by the Rialto. Very much enjoyed it. Very much enjoy Jen's other work in her non-fiction and her short stories, so I'm so excited to have my hands on her first full-length poetry collection, and I'm really enjoying it so far. They often explore queerness and difference, and yeah, I'm excited to talk to you more about this one. 2 more books from publishers though. The first one is a proof, and that is Fran Kiss-Stein, A Love Story by Jeanette Winterson. And I don't know that much about the plot of this other than it is a retelling of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley by one of my favourite authors of all time, Jeanette Winterson. So those 2 things together, I'm like, yes. I read Frankenstein for the first time last year, very much enjoyed it, and like I said, adore Jeanette Winterson. Her retelling of the Greek myth of Atlas called Wait is one of my favourite retellings, so I trust retellings in her hands. On the back it simply says, I am what I am, but what I am is not one thing, not one gender, I live with doubleness. So again, I assume this will explore queer themes, which Jeanette Winterson's work often does, and her prose are always beautiful, so I'm so excited for this. I then have a finished copy of The Girl King, Two Sisters, One Crown by Mimi Yu. This I requested because it sounded so intriguing. It's an Asian-inspired fantasy novel about 2 sisters, one of whom is supposed to take over from their father, the Emperor, when he leaves the throne, presumably through death, but he has instead chosen a male heir over them, although they are his 2 legitimate daughters, and they kind of have to fight for their rightful place in this empire, which just sounds right up my street. But lastly, I wanted to mention 2 ebooks that I acquired on my Kindle, one of which is a proof from NetGalley to review, and the other one I bought myself. So the one I bought myself is The Raven and the Reindeer by T. Kingfisher, and this is a retelling of, is it the Snow Queen or the Ice Queen fairy tale? Snow Witch. You know the fairy tale I mean. I'm kind of blanking right now. But I read T. Kingfisher's retelling of Beauty and the Beast called Bryony and Roses recently and loved it. Thought she was a great writer, found it very enthralling and entertaining. So I was keen to pick up something else by her, and this in particular was recommended to me by Maya, whose channel I'll link down below, and it has a female-female romance in it, which is something I'm constantly in the hunt for, as you know. A few people have requested that I do a video recommending like LGBTQ+ fantasy or science fiction, and that is something I do want to do, but there's a few on my list that I'd like to read before I do that video, so do look out for that in the future sometime this year. But I'm really excited for this because I know I like the author's writing. And then, like I said, I also got a review copy of an ebook from NetGalley called Song of Sacrifice by Janelle Rhiannon, and once you hear what this one is about, you will be in no doubt of why I requested a copy of this, and that is because it is a retelling of the Trojan War from Greek mythology, but instead focused on the female characters from the myths as opposed to the usually male-centric perspective that we get from the ancient sources. So I'm super excited for another good old female perspective Greek myth retelling, because that's something I love. So hopefully this one lives up to my expectations. But those are all the books I have recently acquired. I would love to hear from you if you have any thoughts on any of the books I have mentioned in the comments down below. But until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!